Hello and welcome to Viewpoint on Ukraine today. Joining us now is Sylvia Harrison of Roundhouse UK. She's an arts producer of European Ukrainian social project with disabled young people. Welcome to Viewpoint.
Thank you.
So can you tell us more about what you've seen here in Ukraine and what your project aims to achieve?
Yeah, so I'm from an arts organisation called the Roundhouse, and we do a lot of work with young people. And my job is about connecting the young people in London with young people around the world and trying to showcase the value of the arts in young people's lives. And I've been working with Shelter Plus, that's an arts organisation in Kryviy Rih, in the central district of Ukraine. And we, over the past year, have been developing music projects with young people from both countries. And during this process of me being in Kryviy Rih and through several trips to Ukraine, I've become increasingly aware of the problems facing young people with disabilities. And at the same time as me acknowledging this, Shelter Plus has been doing lots of work to engage disabled young people in their arts projects in the centre of Kryviy Rih. And so I suggested that we look at doing a project for disabled young people here that brings some expertise from London over to not to do a whole new vision, but to extend what they're already doing at their centre.
And obviously this isn't your first time in Ukraine. What are your impressions of what you've seen so far and with the work that you're doing?
Well, this week I've spent a whole week meeting families of disabled children, meeting NGOs that specialise in work with disabled children, visiting the council to understand how the funding works, and meeting with disabled people. And what I have seen is that there are similar barriers for disabled people than there are in the UK, for example, and we normally define these as financial, access and then perceptions. But of course the problems are worse here than they are in the UK. For example, some stories that I've heard that have kind of hit me quite hard are things like if you're in a wheelchair and you want to ride the bus in the city centre, a lot of the time the bus will not let you on because it's too difficult and they're worried about scratching the bus. For example, parents with Down syndrome children told me that even though by law these children are able to access regular schools, many times the schools will say, no, we don't want you.
So they would put the parents that they would have the responsibility of educating their
Yes.
child.
So many of the times there will be a lot of single mothers because it's very common for fathers to leave mothers of disabled children. And so a lot of the time you will see single mothers trying to bring up their disabled children without the support of the council, without the support of their education system, and much of the time without the support of their community because of this problem of perceptions. So I've seen that it's a difficult landscape, but I've also seen that there is some really inspiring stuff happening. So you see lots of NGOs being set up by parents of disabled children to make the change for themselves. So, for example, I met a group of parents who all have autistic children, and they've come together to campaign to fund together for training to come for specific autistic issues, and just to support each other, because there is not that support system provided by the government. So, yeah, it's been this mix of sadness at the situation, but also inspiration at what people are doing for themselves.
And these new groups being set up by the parents and different organizations. Do you think that there is enough effort for this? Do you think enough is being done?
No, I don't think enough is being done. I think that people feel very isolated. So even though they're trying their best to set these things up, there is not enough support. And I think this problem with the community perception is a really big thing. So neighbours and friends, you know, are still find it difficult to understand how to accept these children into society.
But how would they do that in the UK, for example? Are there programs or some kind of funds, or how is it being done?
So in the UK, the government is much more supportive of disabilities. So there is individual allowances, there are specialist schools, and within mainstream schools there is funds to support disabled children coming into mainstream education. that is not here in Ukraine. So yeah, so we're going to try and build a project that responds to some of these issues.
Mm-hmm. What is the role of that you're doing here in this initiative? So,
as I say, we've spent this week getting to understand the landscape for disabilities in Kryviy Rih specifically. And Shelter Plus, who are this great arts organisation, are already doing projects to integrate disabled young people. So what we are going to do is come and do a week-long project that brings over expertise from the UK and supports them financially to put on a really exciting week-long project. So I've been working with the organisation to develop what this project will look like.
And Roundhouse, I understand, this is a major arts kind of institution in England.
Yeah, so we're a major arts organisation, and as I say, my role is about connecting and collaborating with other arts organisations around the world and developing really interesting arts projects.
And do you see a lot of potential in young Ukrainians striving to develop their arts talents?
Yes, very much so. So the project that I ran last year here was for non-disabled musicians. And yeah, the talent in that project was incredible. And, you know, I've done lots of visits to different youth organisations across Ukraine, and there is so much energy coming from the young musicians to set up their own festivals, to set up their own media channels, to set up their own nights that bring together young talent. So it feels like there's a lot of grassroots activity happening from the youth of the country.
What are some of the plans of Roundhouse UK here in Ukraine?
So the project that we will run at Shelter Plus will be a week-long project in July, and it will bring together 15 disabled and 15 non-disabled young artists for one whole week, and they will create a show, basically a music show with professionals from the UK and Ukraine. And then we will perform in the city centre to hopefully, you know, around 1,000 people. And we want the audience to be made up of disabled and non-disabled people, and to celebrate the idea that disabled people have the same creative potential as anyone else. And we want the role of the arts to be, you know, let's celebrate disabilities. It should not be something that is hidden away in the house, but people should be welcome out in the community.
Very interesting. How is the Ukrainian government reacting to this initiative?
I'm not sure yet, but we have some meetings with the Department of Foreign Affairs today, in fact, to start telling them about our aims. So you're the first to know.
But do you see this project developing into something bigger?
We would like that. We would like this week to be a trigger for more perception change and for more people feeling confident to bring disabled people out onto public platforms.
Well, good luck with that. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for meeting with me.
This has been Sylvia Harrison of Roundhouse UK. She's an arts producer of European Ukrainian social project with disabled young people. You've been watching Viewpoint on Ukraine Today.